Okay. Quick confirmation. Is my screen visible? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whichever part of the world. I'm really glad to be here. Thanks to Blue Elephant, Christian, and Max for this opportunity. We will keep it short, but very interactive. We will have time at the end of this to have discussions because single brain cannot outweigh the collective brain power which all of us have here today. So my word is not the last word. Christian words, Mac's word is not the last word. It is all collective learning which we are looking at today. I personally am very excited because I am looking to learn from your thoughts, your experience, and what insights you have. Continuous learning at workplace, it's very interesting. And when I was thinking about the discussion, I thought maybe take a step back and first say, hey, what is learning? What do you really mean by learning? And Oxford gives us this definition of acquisition of knowledge or skill through study, experience, and being taught. Now, a couple of key words are here. Number one, it's knowledge or skills. Then it's through study, experience, or being taught. Now, when we look at all this, it's an all-encompassing definition. But most of the time, when we think about learning, we first think about knowledge. And it's not to be blamed because we've been brought up that way. When we were in school, learning was all about, reading the text. Yes, it was about sports, but it was less about soft skills, which we now know are much more critical. And as we grew up, we went to work, we understood that, hey, it's much more than what you learn in school or college or your professional education. It's more than that. It's about how do you deal with people, how do you manage people, how do you coach, how do you handle objections, how do you sell, a lot of other things. So it moves from a push to a pull. There is a transition. During our school and college phase, we have a push. And it is also same because everyone is studying the same thing. As we grow up and as we move, it translates into a pull where you start pulling in what you need to learn. At some point of time, organizations, companies, they will give up. They will say, hey, if you want to learn, here is the tool, here is the application, go ahead and learn. We all know how people most of the time complete the mandatory compliance courses. But then, when it comes to learning, it becomes more of a pull and it becomes different. Earlier, it is same, but then it becomes different because things need to be customized for every individual. People working in the same department, in the same company, in the same project, may still have different learning needs. That's not the case in school or colleges. So the whole scenario, the perspective changes. And then as we go ahead further and gain experience in corporate, maybe 20 years, 30 years of experience, we become 45, 50 years of age, nearing our retirement. And by that age, we kind of believe, most of us, that, hey, we know how everything works. The big question, and I'm yet to reach that stage, is what will be the definition of learning then? Are we talking about technical learning? Are we talking about skills? Which skills will matter at that life stage? But that is something which will continuously evolve. So that's a very brief analysis of what learning looks like. Now, I want to dive a little deeper and talk about the role of intent. When we look at learning, and when we especially look at continuous learning, what is the intent behind it? We all know Simon Sinek's famous phrase, start with why, right? Now, this intent may be triggered externally, may be triggered internally. So we need to identify what are the triggers to the intent. As we are talking about continuous learning at the workplace, managers, HR teams, coaches, mentors, they play a major role in identifying every employee. What is their intent? Forget about you have to complete X number of hours of training in a year. I want to know, hey, what's your intent? Do you want to become a top salesman? Do you want to become good in programming? Do you want to learn project management? Why? And the deeper we dig, we understand the real intent. And then it can very well marry with the course and the programs which can be offered to them. So the role of intent is sometimes overlooked, and we try to drive continuous learning, but at the core is the intent. If we don't have the intent, it will all fall apart. So it's good to identify, the triggers of intent. My intent for this session today is to learn from all of you. That's my intent. That's my selfish motive, right? Okay, moving on to another aspect or another perspective is fixed versus growth mindset. Now, this is not a new term. I'm sure all of you, if not all, maybe most of you, you are aware of this term. I'll not get into what is fixed mindset versus growth mindset. You all know what it is. But how does it really impact continuous learning? We first have to understand, and it links very closely with the intent. Hey, do I need to learn continuously? That's the first question. And if yes, why and how it will help me? Because as a fixed mindset person, if I believe I have already spent X number of years in the department, in the company, in the industry, I know everything. I know what's latest happening. I don't need to learn anything. That's a very myopic view because we are only talking about technical skills. What about behavioral skills? What about human skills? We have to ensure that we understand, are we suffering from fixed mindset? Sometimes people believe and think that they have a growth mindset, and this is very interesting. But actually, when they do a deeper analysis, especially when I do my one-to-one coaching sessions, people discover, hey, I knew this concept. I always thought I have a growth mindset. But now when I'm discussing with you, I'm discovering that I'm actually having a fixed mindset. So it's very interesting. And when we talk about continuous learning, it's all about the mindset, and growth mindset really helps there. Growth mindset is not only about learning new things, but it's also about accepting that what I have learned in the past may no longer be relevant, may be outdated, maybe I was wrong. I was approaching something in the wrong way, and then relearn the whole thing. That's what growth mindset is all about, and it really helps in continuous learning. Now, because we are talking about the workplace, and this picture here depicts, on the left side is the organization or employees at large, and on the right side is one single employee. You can put yourself in that position if you're working in a corporate, or even otherwise if you are a freelancer or your own businessman. What happens is many times companies try to drive continuous learning by providing platforms, access, a lot of content, training opportunities to people. We also know that a lot of companies have a specific talent development pool activities where they identify core talent and put them through a leadership development journey. Now, the point is, if these drivers are missing, so imagine a company, and trust me, there are a lot like that. There are a lot of companies in that phase where they don't have a structured L&D team, they don't have a lot of e-learning content, they don't have a lot of focus on learning. They may be a startup phase, or maybe they are too old to change. The question is, our workforce is continuously changing. Younger people are entering the workforce, older ones are getting retired. Now, what happens is when an individual joins such a company, if the person waits for the company to be the driver for continuous learning, well, you may miss the bus. So the question here is, who? I'm sorry, Michael? Okay. I thought you were saying something. You can put your questions in the chat box, as Max mentioned, and we will love to have discussions in the end. Thank you. So this single person on the right side actually depicts that you, or the single individual, also has the capability to take learning in his or her own hands and drive continuous learning rather than waiting for external stimuli, external resources. And we are living in a world where internet is cheap, host of content is available, we are surrounded by content. I mean, I can't express how much I feel this, because I remember my college days, and even before Google, we were all sitting in library for hours searching for content, but now it's readily available. So who's the driver? That's a big question. And before I move on to the last segment, This is a very, very interesting thing, which I don't know, maybe it will be also a point of discussion. There is the definition again, the same definition of learning from Oxford, and I've highlighted the word experience. What happens most of the time, and I'm now moving from technical learning, software applications, all those things to real hardcore soft skills, which are more important at the workplace. If we have a team and a manager, and let's say the manager is not able to handle the team well or not able to guide the team well, for that manager, what is life teaching him or her? The question is, this experience where I have made it bold, the person needs to be aware of the need of learning. What I'm trying to say is that if you're not aware of the need of learning, it will never even occur to you that you need to learn something. And John Cena in the picture here, what was that? What it basically means is life is happening at every moment. It's happening right now as we are talking here. But life tries to teach us something every single day. The question is, we don't recognize when life is trying to teach us something. We have to be conscious enough to be able to recognize, hey, was there a lesson, some lesson in there? I faced this challenge. Was there a lesson for me? I was successful here. Was there a lesson for me? Some people journal, some people write those lessons, and it really helps them. So what I'm trying to say here is that whenever we face a challenge, whether it is hard skills, soft skills, everything, life is trying to teach us, but we have to be smart enough to be able to say, hey, I think there was a lesson in there. I need to catch that lesson, translate into some learning action plan, and look at what resources I have and get on with my continuous learning. So that was, those were my thoughts on continuous learning. And I would like to end with quick 5 tips, or you can say daily habits, which you, your team, your families, your friends, everyone, you can incorporate to become a continuous learner. Number 1, network. I think this event is all about networking, right? We learn from each other. Network, associate with professional groups, online or offline, attend talks, debates, but network. Second, read. I'm sure all of you, most of you here would be into this, because I've hardly met a passionate L&D professional who is not an avid reader. Very tough to find, but do read. We get to see the world through the eyes of the author, gives us a different perspective. Number 3, take up something challenging. It could be a sport. It could be an assignment where you think you're surely bound to fail. Of course, companies have to play a role there to make it a safe environment to fail. For example, I believe I'm not good in finance. I'm an HR, I'm an L&D guy. So I sometimes try to push myself and study some balance sheet and cash flow statements. Just challenge yourself. Our brain is very elastic. Neuroplasticity is all about that. It changes something and helps us become a continuous learner. Number 4, this is one of the most difficult thing to do. Take feedback. Ask for feedback. It could be from your peers, it could be from your manager. Don't wait for the half-yearly appraisal cycle or annual appraisal cycle. Ask for feedback. Ask for feedback from your customers. Ask for feedback from your team members. I ask for feedback from my wife and my kids. My kids give me good feedback. I can't discuss about my wife. So ask for feedback. What you get to learn from them, sometimes it will just blow you away, because if you know the concept of Johari window, the blind spot, you don't know what you don't know. That's the thing which others may notice about you. It's a great way. And the last one is definitely putting a structure to all of it. Formal learning, attending courses, enrolling into programs, not only what your organization provides you, but remember the slide where I said, who is the driver? You need to take charge of your learning and become a continuous learner. So that's it from my side. I hope I did not exceed the time and we have time for discussion. And this slide says, well, the bulb is not yet lighted, but when we have inputs from everyone, the bulb may light up. Thank you so much. Over to you, Max and Christian.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Atul, for sharing. Let me just briefly share my screen again. Right. Yeah, I guess at this point then, are there any questions? I guess with regards to what Atul just presented, thoughts he shared, the input he gave, or maybe anything else.
And maybe just before we jump into this, a quick explanation. So this is really like now, if there's some very specific questions to the content that was presented, we do this like 1 or 2 or 3 minutes just to clarify certain points. And then we will jump anyhow into a sharing where we can ask general questions and also share and with the rest of the team. So, but if there's any specific questions to what Atul presented, to clarify certain points, please feel free to ask. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. That's a good sign.
There are only 2 meanings when there are no questions. Go ahead.
But I think it was very clear and very to the point presented. So I guess it's option 1, which is it was very clear. Cool. Then Max, maybe we can move to the next slide and go into the networking breakout. So we have roughly 20-30 minutes left in this call. We have, I think at the moment, 10 participants, including us here from the organizing team. So we have plenty of time for everybody to spend maybe 2 minutes to introduce themselves quickly and add their feedback to this. And please also make like yourself sure that you don't overtake too much of the time, because we want everybody to have the opportunity to share a little bit their feedback. So Max, maybe on the next slide, what we normally do is we have this coffee table here where we say this is ideas of what you can share, your name, your position, which company you're working for, what location are you based in, current projects you're working on when it comes to continuous workplace learning, your experience with this topic, any tips and tricks you want to share, or any specific questions you have maybe for the group. And Christine, if you still want to jump in, or if you need to leave now, I will take you as the first one. You decide if you can or cannot.
I can do this.
Then please feel free to open this with 2 minutes sharing your ideas and thoughts around this.
Appreciate letting me go first. So my name is Christine. I'm a L&D business partner for Believe. It is the music distribution company here in Singapore. So the current projects, I run many projects in terms of learning and development and trying to inspire our people to kickstart their learning. So one of the experience I probably have would be creating a sort of a challenge, challenging each of our employee to really read through something, just an article, a video of sorts, summarize them, and write out the piece onto a sort of a tool. The one that I was using was Padlet. So Padlet allows everyone who is on board to also read what others have written. So the first time, I think I still face a lot of challenge in the current company to try to drive this. I don't think everyone was super on it, despite having monetary reward. My first time, the first year I run the challenge, and the second year when I ran the challenge for approximately 6 months, it was merchandise reward. It didn't kickstart a whole lot of stuff. I mean, whole lot of sharing. I got maximum of only 44 articles out of 6 months. So probably the question is, did I do it right, or was it not interesting at all? Such concept to be introduced. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a Gen Z thing. So those were something that I have to share. And also the other part is lots of questions.
Yeah. It's probably, I mean, maybe somebody else in the group has some feedback there on this point. Anybody has some thoughts on what Christine just shared on how to maybe make it more interesting, maybe have TikTok videos instead of articles to read? Any experience in this field?
Well, we have a missing link here, Christian, which I see is you did everything which you thought you should do, and there was a result which you expected from the people. Now there are two phases. You are facing this side, but there are receivers on the other side. So did you deep dive or have a discussion with them as to why they did not engage? What was the feedback? And I'm talking about formative, summative feedback. When they were doing the exercise, was it too cumbersome for them? Was it too not so glamorous for them? What was the real reason? Because we may guess the reason, but the real reason will come from them through discussion. So once you have that, then we can plug in and see, hey, these are the common things and we will do it differently next time. My thought.
Sounds great. But I did receive some feedback, but it wasn't a whole lot. That's why I ran the second year after the first round of feedback.
Right.
It didn't drive that take up rate even higher. So one of the feedback is probably language issue. They are not very comfortable with language. So my second year when I ran it, I did kind of share that it is okay to write in your own language, because I
Right.
manage the Southeast Asia. So generally English is not many of the countries' mother tongue for them.
Right.
So I did share with them, this is one of the ways that you can write it in your own language. It doesn't matter. All we need to do is it's because the tool allow us to translate automatically. So the reader can just, with a click of a button, translate it. I roughly know what you were trying to say. Hopefully that helps, but
Thank you.
nah. So there were of course, other feedbacks, but again, trying to adjust them, but it still did not get a whole lot
Got
of.
it. Got it.
One thing, it's they are constantly telling me they are too busy, no time.
And I propose, Christine, if you like, because we will probably not have enough time to deep dive into this topic today, but if you like, I'm very happy to organize a call, or you can organize it. We can ask who would like to participate in a small brainstorming session, 15 minutes, half an hour, where we can really deep dive into this and share some other ideas on your specific use case.
Sure. I mean, I'm open. It's just learning. It's a learning journey for me, but appreciate that. More than 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
No,
But thank
you
you.
so much.
I shall
So
keep it going. Bye.
Thank you.
Then,
Thank you, Christian.
next in the list, I have Archana. Archana, do you want to maybe share a little bit? You're still muted.
Archana, you are on. Archana? Yeah, Archana is up. Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hi, Archana. Christian just called you up, so yeah.
Sorry, my internet is not that good. That's why, like, it's a little bit breaking in between. Yeah. So yeah, sure. I'll just start. Myself, Archana, I'm from Mahindra First Choice Wheels Limited. I'm working as a deputy manager HR. Earlier, I was into the recruitment TA, the complete TA. Very recently, I have taken this challenging role for IT department, the learning and development journey for the whole employees. I'm basically operating from the Bangalore location. And the new project, what I've taken is the curating pathways in the LXP platform. So recently I've started doing the skill-based curations for my employees. based on their current and future skill needs. So almost I have launched 67 pathways on the LXP platform, and I could see a lot of improvement in employees' performance because they all started utilizing the online learning. It is very handy. They can even use their mobile application to learn anytime, anywhere. So I'm still facing challenge because it's very new for me. I wanted to learn. I want to understand how to take it forward to the next level, because I'm still at the education level. I wanted to push it to the experience and the exposure level of the development journey. So if you could help me, any tips in over here, it would be really helpful for us to drive it.
Okay, so Christian can add to his subject matter expert here in driving the LXP. Archana, first of all, congratulations on your transition. And it's a very brave thing to do. Let me tell you, L&D role is not easy. I am into one, and we are in similar industry. So it's super tough. So congratulations first for transitioning from one to another and successfully driving the first level, which is curating the pathways and people already starting using it. Because I think cracking the nut in the first go of people starting to use something is one of the most difficult thing, and you achieved that. So well done there.
Thank you.
I think taking it to the next level, while you would want to make the experience more seamless, more rewarding, adding gamification, linking it to their, sales numbers, there is a whole lot of thing you can do, and Christian can maybe add more and schedule a separate call with you where, you can link their performance data with the programs, and the analytics will happen automatically, and then they will know exactly what program to do, when, how, all that can be done. My only, from my experience, I would say, while you are doing all of this, never lose sight of how people are using it and how their needs are changing. Because it's very easy to get overwhelmed with launching a lot of stuff. Management will be behind you. You will be fighting for budget, and that's the input. Launching something, that's the input, right? People attending training, that's part of the input and output. But the real output is what people are saying after the training, how their behavior is changing, how they are faring in the knowledge assessments. After 6, you can do a pre-post, quick, easy. You do a surprise assessment any day of the week or weekend. Just do a surprise assessment, and then, drive them through a journey, and then publish the post-assessment score. Low-hanging fruit. So a lot of things like these can be done. Never lose connection with the real people who are actually learning. That's where your real meat is going to come from. That's from my side. Christian?
Thank you.
I come back to this proposal to have a separate call because I want to give the other people also time to share.
Yeah.
But I'm super happy, Archana, to have a separate call on this and brainstorm a little bit. Next on the list that I have here is Carl, who is, I think, the only one in this round that joined all the previous calls as well. So Carl, super happy if you want to share with this group as well some of your experience and some questions you might have.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm Carl. I work as a learning development specialist in a company called Container Exchange here in Hamburg, Germany. And my current project is we have, over the last, say, year or so, a little bit more, we have focused on onboarding, and now I'm making a shift over to more senior training, and with focus currently on goal setting and yeah, mainly goal setting for now. And yeah, so I was in, I don't know if any of you were there, I was in London about a month ago for the Learning Tech conference over there. And yeah, how should I best phrase this? I wasn't super impressed with the companies over there. Hence, say my tips and tricks, if you will be, I am very much into AI and use it in any way I can. And I think that's something that needs to be done. And I would like to ask, basically, have you guys seen a large pushback, or do you feel that you are giving pushback to this? As when I was talking to 50 different companies over in London, the common theme was basically no, learning and development doesn't need AI because we know what we're doing. Basically, we have been doing learning and development 15 years. Why should you need AI when we are the expert? AI isn't experts. So have you received a pushback, and do you also push back on yourself on stuff like this?
Well, that's a debate, right? So we're not gonna get into the debate here, but if you want to ask me, I don't think one can fully replace the other. That's my summary on that. It's not a fight, actually. AI, I would say, is like an armor for me to make me more strong, more robust, and be able to fight the demons of darkness and have the light of knowledge hit all the participants. But AI is going to make things easier. AI is going to make things interesting. If one is terrified of the AI, I think people will be in the denial phase, right? And it's understandable, because let's understand, so many jobs are getting replaced, and the question is, beyond that what? Beyond that what? So there is something I'm doing manually today. If 80% of that is taken over by AI, what will I do? So we also need to take our game to the next level. So I feel that people who are in the denial mode, hopefully they will align to the changing world, because you can't stop it. That's number one, unless all the governments in the world put ban on AI. But that's not stoppable. I would suggest use it with caution, but at the same time, there is a red flag. And that red flag is, and I've already started seeing with a couple of my known associates, over dependence on AI, which means I stop using my own brain. I use AI for every single thing, even something which I'm capable of doing well. Because it gets addictive. It's easy, you can finish it faster, it gets addictive. So I think it's a very fine balance which L&D needs to maintain. Use the AI, but ensure it's like flying a plane. You have autopilot, and now the planes are equipped with auto landing as well. But if the auto landing is not working, the pilot has to be qualified enough to land the plane manually, just like Sully, right? So it doesn't replace that. That's my thought.
Yeah, I want to give a quick pushback, because I heard that sort of argument a lot over in London too, that
Right.
You stop thinking on your own, or whatever, how you want to phrase it. However, that was said about the printing press as well. And I mean, I fully agree with you that it won't completely replace people. I mean, we will still be around and we will still have a function, but I do think it will, say, take people from being performers to high performance in a smaller step than it does for a person outside of using AI. But yeah, I mean, of course, I don't think we will be replaced. Only the people who don't utilize AI will be replaced.
That's probably true. Yeah. Ji-Xiang, do you have any ideas to add to this, or maybe briefly introduce yourself and share your thoughts on this topic?
Hello. So I was invited to this call by Christine, the one who just said first. I'm actually her intern, so working alongside her. So I think my perspective would be similar but different slightly to what she has shared. I think what all of you guys have shared actually have been quite interesting to me. I think primarily I'm still at a learning phase, like seeing everything, trying to digest as much as I can. And one thing I realized is that you can never be fully prepared for something, because even if you, well, yeah, you can prepare for something, but every time when something pops up, or like when you have certain takeaways, you realize that there's actually still a lot more to learn. And if you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to change, sometimes things can be quite difficult in a sense. And I think what I would find interesting regarding to this, like talk about AI and everything, is that yes, it can replace people, it can make things easy for you, but what I see different from AI versus with like us humans as workers is that it lacks the human touch. I feel like obviously every time when you walk around, like let's say like in a hotel, or like when you board a bus, like the bus driver, every time if it's an AI, it's just like, oh hi, how are you? They repeat this for like the 10 people that board the bus. But if you compare that with like an actual driver asking you how is your day, I think there's definitely a difference to it. So primarily I would think that rather than fearing that, my perspective is that maybe certain things that you need a solid team, like a group of people to help you do things, but AI can help make these things easier in a sense. And I think being able to utilize that fully and not losing the human touch, I think we can be like really powerful and really productive in a sense. So that's my 4 senses. Yeah.
Totally agree with you, and it's good to have also this refreshing new insights. You know, we are all probably working 10, 20 years in this field, so having some new insights and how the younger generation sees this is also super valuable. Thanks for sharing that. So we only have 10 minutes left. We still have Roman and Sharifa to share. I think Roman, you're the next one on my list. If you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Of course, thank you. Thank you for this call today. My name is Roman from Hamburg, Germany. I'm an investor as part of Faraday Ventures and also a founder as part of startup Wise Guys. My background is in the startup tech space. So for the past 15 years now, I've worked in startups on the operational and commercial side. And regarding learning, during these 15 years, I came across something that I find quite fascinating. It's the fact that all the startups I worked in provided its employees with a personal learning and development budget. They were all very similar, pretty much the same amount of money, companies spending overall quite a significant amount on these L&D budgets. But the results, the effect, if you want, or you might even say the ROI of these development budgets were entirely different from company to company. In one startup, it worked super well, while in another, I would say it was pretty much a waste of money. My take on that, my personal view on that, and I thought about this, is 2 aspects. One operational and the other cultural. So operational, what I noticed are questions like, does HR have an overview of what has been learned or not? Can managers see who learned what in their team, especially if you have new managers coming in, they take over a team? Or can employees easily find relevant learning content that fits their career ambitions and so on? And then also cultural, is there I think what we all would call a learning culture in place? How much is learning valued through leadership, management, and within the whole company? And I would be super interested to hear your point of view on that, and maybe your experience on how these personal development budgets, especially in small and medium-sized companies and startups, tech companies, are working out and what works well and what doesn't, and what your experience is.
Hey, Roman, thank you for the question. And as we have limited time, let me share this. I have seen this problem in a couple of companies I have worked for and also where I have consulted externally. Most of the time, the problem where budget is fine, as you mentioned, common, but no ROI. You mentioned two aspects, operational and cultural. I'll add one more aspect to that, and that is how do these initiatives start? So we bring in an L&D expert, we have HR, we have management, they all are experienced people. And then they say, hey, we should have this, and we should have this type of training. They create something. My take is this is actually upside down. I always believe that if you all know Kirkpatrick model, I'll not get into the detail of the model, but the level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Level 4 is the ROI, the business result. But we don't start from there. When we start identifying the training need and what is actually going to be to make the impact, it needs to start from the business problem. What I have realized is that many times we launch stuff, and then after 6 months, we want to measure ROI. Actually, ROI measurement metrics should have been planned even before the launching of the program. But that doesn't happen all the time. So as long as we are super clear that we are going to target this problem, and this is how we are going to measure the ROI, everything gets aligned. And the second point is every problem is not a training problem. I have a framework, again, because of time, I will not be able to share it here, but there are 6 parameters which affect any individual's performance, whether it is an intern, bright intern like G, or it's the CEO of a company. Only common 6 parameters which impact the performance of every individual. Training is one of them. Learning and development is just one. There are 5 other parameters. The problem happens when for every problem, every performance problem, managers start looking at training as the solution, but it may not be so. So I have experienced that these are 2 other factors which also affect, and hence the desired result is not found. That's from my side, Roman.
Thank you, Atul.
Okay, let's hear from Sharifa. She knows that she's the next one.
Exactly.
Hello.
And I know I only have 5 minutes left, so I'm not gonna I'm trying not to take more than that. Hi, I'm Sharifa. I'm based in Dubai. I have 10 years of experience in training, learning, and development, but I noticed that I might be the exception here because all of my experience has been in educational institutions. So for the past 10 years, I've worked in high schools. I've been a university professor. I've been a university professor. I have 2 master's degrees. What else? I've worked as a professional developer for teachers. At this moment, I am trying to transition into a corporate setting. And a lot of what I have heard today has been very motivating, actually, because it's making me more sure of my decisions that I do have plenty of transferable skills. So Atul, like just what we were just saying about the Kirkpatrick model and the idea of beginning with the end in mind. So that aligns with everything that we've done, that I've been doing for the past 10 years. So yeah, I'm looking to transition formally into a learning development training team. I've learned a lot from you guys, so I want to thank you for that. Instead of offering tips and tricks, I wanted to ask if you would have any for me, as somebody who is looking into like just shifting my skill set into another setting. 2 minutes.
So because of the time, I will give you a bunch of keys and you can find out what works for you. Try to make a list of things which will not apply in the real world of corporate learning and development from your educational background. While there are a whole lot of transferable skills, there are few things which are very different. just make a list of those things which will not apply, or could be, it could be your way of working, way of approaching things, way of identifying the training need, way of being authoritative. Okay, what is the credibility we are bringing? Is it certification from institutes, affiliations? What works in the corporate may not work there, and what works there may not work here. So just a list of things which will not work, because you already know what all you are doing. You're already on that path. Like I make a not to do list. To do list is common. I make a not to do list. So just identify those things, because that will remove the blockers which you may encounter to a great extent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to add to this? So what we can do is, I mean, now we pretty much reached the end of this presentation or this session. We can, at least from our end, we can stay a little bit longer if somebody wants to have some more back and forth discussion or sharing. I can share some examples, Roman, also to the point that you mentioned with the startups on how some other companies are having some successes that might not be the golden ticket for everything, but at least some other hints. But to close this officially so that everybody can jump into the next call, I really would like to thank Atul for your presentation. Absolutely amazing. Even that it's just a few very simple questions you asked, I noted down a lot of things where I want to investigate. How can we really strengthen the topic of to identify the intent before we do a training? Because I think that's so important. And how can we maybe even, Carl, to your point, leverage AI to help the person to come out and identify the intent, so that I really have the urge now I really want to learn it. And also maybe how can we record the lessons learned in a kind of diary that I can maybe re-look up and reiterate. This is what I learned last year. Oh, I wanted to remember it. I think that's super powerful. Simple things, but yeah, very good. And I also want to thank the rest of the participants today, even that some of them already dropped out, for sharing your ideas and thoughts. See this as a kickoff to discuss this. Share your, and I see some of you already share your LinkedIn profiles. Reach out to each other, support each other. We're one big community that we all have the same ambition to make learning and development fun and successful for our learners that are using it. So having that said, we will stay a little bit longer. Whoever wants to stay, feel free. Whoever needs to jump into the next call, thank you so much, and see you soon again.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure. So maybe to pick up on this one topic that I just mentioned, Roman, to your point with the startups, we have one relatively big client in Germany, and they do have some really, really good experience in gamifying their trainings. So what they use one of our standard tools, and in this tool you can challenge other learners in their learning fields. You can say, hey, I'm challenging you on the topic of compliance, and then you can win some points, and you can use those points later on for some benefits. So they have here the ambition of challenging each other, learning, and the learning part is like a side benefit of this exercise. I think there's always you want to try to attack a problem from multiple sides. The intrinsic interest of why you want to learn is probably super important. If I think about my time as an entrepreneur, I've not participated in one structured learning. I have not spent one single dollar on structured learning, but I have learned so much, probably in the last 3 years, as much as I've learned in the last 20 years. Because I know I need it and I want to really learn it, and I dig into my stuff. I dig into YouTube videos. I read books like Atul mentioned, articles, so I think having this intrinsic, but also the extrinsic factor is probably something that is quite beneficial.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Quite interesting. I think It's true that the gamification can facilitate the learning, can make it more fun. And then I think that the last step would also be then, if I as an employee take part in these games, I accumulate a lot of points, so to say, I win these challenges. How is my acquiring of knowledge valued within the organization? I think this is an aspect. What can I do with it? What happens with it? Does it bring me as an employee of the organization some sort of advantage, apart from the points in the game? I think this is an interesting aspect. And one question, what would interest me in that solution is, are you generating that content kind of as part of this game? Or is it generated through connecting existing content, let's say in an LMS? How do you, where does that content come from that you use to create these quizzes?
Yeah, so the current status is that we provide the tool itself, and the company has an authoring tool in the backend where they can generate those quizzes. They can either do it manually by saying, okay, I want to have this question, or there should be a video embedded and things like this. Or they upload a PDF document, for example, from a PowerPoint presentation they have or compliance guidelines they have. And then we have an AI that generates out of this PDF document learning content and quizzes and questions and answers. And of course, they're not fixed in the system. They will be presented to the instructor, and the instructor then can modify them. So we will not completely do everything AI embedded, but it's 80% of the work is in this case done by the AI. So both is possible. And nice. We're actually also now exploring on how to generate content and quizzes on the fly, so that we really try to take into consideration this specific person is 2 years in the company. He's working in this and this position in the company, and maybe he has this and this development targets. Here's our general compliance content. Customize this on the fly to this learner. And if the learner says, I did not understand this and this part, then we generate learning content again specifically for him. Or if he answered a question in a certain way incorrect, a quiz, then how can we try to generate some learning content to make it simple for him to understand it and customize it to the position he's in? That's what we're currently working on.
That sounds great, and that's something that I came across a lot as well. The feedback from someone in my teams using their learning development budget depended a lot on where they stood in their career, what their ambitions were, what their skill gaps were, the way they approached learning, the questions they asked regarding support in choosing a course and choosing a training. Was highly different depending on where they stood at that point. So that's quite interesting. Maybe after this presentation, you could send me some information regarding this tool. Thanks.
And Carl, maybe coming back to you, what were some of the, so you said it's quite like there's not so much happening in the space of AI and learning from your perspective, or people are still pushing back. Were there any interesting tools that you saw where they, like, AI is doing amazing stuff?
To be honest, I would say no. And I spoke to basically all the big players, so Udemy, Articulate, whomever might be, right? And they all had I would say, a fairly outdated and fairly, say, restrictive view on what you could potentially do with AI. And I would even take it as far as saying that they had a fairly arrogant view of their abilities and what they think AI could do. Because, I mean, I want to say, make sure that content is produced at a rate that is satisfactory to well, the learners. So there's new topics that need to be learned every day, and if each course takes 3 months to produce, due to there's someone who feels that they have been doing the job for 15 years, don't want to utilize AI to make it quicker, then who knows, maybe it will be outdated once the course is done, or you always say chase what you need to do. So say if we use our company as an example, we of course need to have our sales guys, for instance, or the support guys, that they really understand the new features. And since we are a fast startup company, we release features fairly regularly. And if it's always that you have to basically chase the product people or so to be able to put out a course about a topic, or you might release it 3 months after it's released to the users, then there's a significant gap in sort of knowledge, what they need to know and what they actually currently know. So for me, what I see with AI is that it doesn't produce perfect content currently. It's fairly new, and that's fine. That's where the human touch comes in, that humans can actually look through and say, okay, this is actually useful, this isn't useful, this is something that we could improve on, this is something we should rephrase. Here we have some disconnect in flow, or whatever it might be. But it's the efficiency part that is mainly interesting to me. And that was, I would say, sore lacking from these companies. And I mean, I'm sure that you all know you have been testing different L&D solutions, and I would say the vast majority of them are basic copies of each other, and they all say that they're the Netflix of learning, or whatever it might be, or whatever buzzword they decide to throw out. And that it didn't disappoint me really, but it did open my eyes to that this space is not as happy about, say, innovation as they pretend to be. And yeah, was my big takeaway from my time in London. And yeah, feel free to comment on it if you have any.
I think the whole space of AI in learning we need to still also be a little bit careful. You're probably all aware that the European Union and I think also Germany is working on an AI Act at the moment, putting different like how we can use AI into different categories, and there are certain categories where AI will be completely forbidden in the future. For example, scoring models on people. So there will not be a system giving you a social score based on an AI feature, or giving you a credit rating based on AI. That will be forbidden in the future. And then there will be certain areas that are underneath that, and then like the lowest level is you can use it, for generating, I don't know, simple things, but HR and having systems that give like judging how well somebody is performing and where he might have some skill gaps, they're in between, and they will be regulated to a certain degree, and they need to be explainable also in the future. Why did the AI come up with this solution or this result on this training judgment? That's why maybe some of the bigger companies especially are also careful in this space. But it's, yeah, a lot of possibilities.
Of course, I mean, that is to be expected, that governments want to stifle technology. But as a person living in Germany, I remember they banned things like Uber and so on, because it was damning to the taxi industry, because the holy taxi people were angels, basically. But you can't stop technology. What you have to do is create an environment where it can, say, flower out in a safe way, rather than say, no, you can't do it, because the only thing that happens is that you fall behind other, say, nations who actually do embrace it. And we say the European Union has always wanted to put in restrictions for different things, as we all know. But if the EU start putting in restrictions, which makes us not as competitive as, say, the Far East Asian countries or whichever region it might be, that will not be a positive outcome for us here in Europe. And I think that the people in Brussels, they do realize that few years down the line every time. So even if it will be partially halted for a short while, it by almost necessity will be released again, so it can catch up. And I mean, Europe have over a long time been pretty good at first coming up with something pretty good, then restricting it, then actually realize, okay, we can't do this, we have to actually go forward with this. I mean, you see that with the TMNC or whatever they call over in Taiwan now, the Americans saying, okay, we need to take care of this on ourselves because we need this political security, and the same goes for AI. And I cannot see a world where that won't happen. People try to compare it to, say, Bitcoin or whatever it might be that many people see as a flop. I am one of those who don't see it as super useful, and that's the exact point, that this AI is extremely useful. There's so many use cases for it. Say if we compare it to Bitcoin is like, yeah, okay, you're going to replace money that we already have, and so you need to build a new trust system and everything around it. But AI doesn't have that sort of problem. Now, of course, there are other problems, but use case is definitely not one of them.
Atul, I see you opened your mic and you might need to jump out soon, but are you using AI in your company at the moment?
No, we are not. In fact, not in the L&D space, but we are exploring with solutions where, because we are into buying and selling used cars, right? OLX. So replacing manual inspection with AI, wherein we take the picture from certain angles and AI is able to detect the quality of the car and predict the right price at which we should buy the car. That's and it's not something new. Companies have been trying to do this since a long time, but that's where the latest use of AI is happening.
And any plans or ideas to maybe explore AI for learning and development?
I agree with the call. You can't stop it, actually. That's for one. At the same time, when we look at because it's a very big organization, and culturally we are governed by OLX Group, and then Group has NASPER and process. So a lot of organizational hierarchy. So I cannot comment from OLX Auto's perspective only because we are driven by them. We have an online learning platform, which is, again, we share it with OLX Group, and all our sister companies use the same platform. But I do feel that, yes, that is something we can't stop. And as a company, we are very tech oriented. It's not that we are technology averse, no. It's coming in all areas. So why not L&D? Maybe they are just prioritizing where, because here you replace your inspection engineers with a simple mobile application. You don't need to have automobile engineers for inspection anymore. So it results in immediate saving. Gradually, they will percolate it down to other departments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, I need to jump. So I just want to express my gratitude. Thank you so much, Max, for connecting with me. It started a couple of weeks back, and here we are today. Thank you, Christian, for giving me this opportunity. It was great talking to you. And Carl and Chi, thank you so much. Carl, thank you so much for all the perspective. I feel I attended the conference without even going to London. And thank you, Chi. You are the future, the next generation. And I'm really, it's great to see that it's in safe hands. Thank you so much, guys. I'll sign off.
Atul,
Bye-bye.
great having you on.
Thanks, Atul.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. And I think for the rest, we also probably drop out now. So thank you so much again. It was really great to see you again, Carl, and to meet you, Chi. And please feel free to reach out anytime. Also, Carl, we should think about in the future if you also have one topic that you might be able to share with the community as a keynote speaker. Let me know.
Sure, I haven't really thought about that, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I'm merely a journeyman trying to figure out something good.
Okay. Right. Excellent. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you, everybody.
Good rest of the
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.